Hey, this is the second part to Genesis Revisited. I just want to say something first relating to the first video. I had said something about mirrors being related to the deep or a body of water, and I just realized after that the word mirror also itself is very similar to a word for a body of water, like a lake or a pond or a sea, and that would be words like marine, mariner, mere, marsh. And is it a coincidence? It's a noticeable connection. The word mirror itself comes from the Latin mirus, which means to wonder, to smile, and that's like what you'd get when you look into a mirror, like a wonder, seeing yourself or some image. But there could be a connection there too. It may not be a coincidence. And so with the third day of creation, we see that God wants to gather the waters together that are under the firmament into one place. And you have to wonder, what does that mean exactly? Does that mean waters would be kept inside the earth, or is it ice, or both? Doesn't really say. But it does say in the letters of Peter that the earth stands out of water and in water, so the earth is sort of floating on water, and there's a lot of water under it. Then God separates the waters from the land, and he calls the dry land earth. That would be aerates in Hebrew, and he calls the gathering together of the waters seas. That would be yam in Hebrew. It's interesting that the word aerates is very similar to the English word earth, and I don't think that's an accident. They're the same word, it's just they've mutated over time. And it's also interesting that the Indo-European root for earth is terse or terse, and we get words like terrain, terrestrial, territory from that. And that word also means dry, and I don't think that's an accident either. And it's interesting, you notice that the letters are the same in terse as in aerates. They're just backwards, or the order is different. And that's something called metathesis, or transposition, and that's where the sounds have just shifted inside the word, and that would be some mutation over time in the pronunciation. It's kind of like a dyslexia of speech, where the letters or the sounds get transposed. So I would say those are the same words. Now God sees that the separation of the wet and dry is a good thing, and all these words for earth basically mean dry. And in the original scriptures, the word land is not there, it's just dry. Land has been added, and it's in italics in most versions now. And so the next thing that God does is he lets the earth bring forth trees, grass, and fruit. Now there are a few words that all have the same consonants, RTS, and they can all be connected to the third day of creation. It's interesting how they have different meanings, but they can all be tied together, both in the Hebrew and the English. That would be the words dry, tree, true, throw, even three, Torah in Hebrew, the name Jerusalem. D and T are often interchangeable in pronunciation, so T can be used for a D in the word dry. D and T are often interchanged in a mutation of pronunciation. Something that is dry is thought of as something that is firm, it's sound, it's not wet, it's not slippery, not muddy. And in the meaning of the English word tree, it's something that is sound, firm, and also in English true. Something that is true is something that has been tested, it's sound, it's firm. And in throw, a tree throws down roots. And something that is thrown down is something that is founded. You found something in the earth, and that's something that you build upon, you trust upon it, a foundation stone. The word Torah in Hebrew means customs, manners, something that is taught. And what is often taught? The truth. And you teach what is true. The word Torah comes from the word yera. It's connected directly in Strong's Concordance. And you can see there the Y and the T being interchanged. I mentioned that earlier. Yera means to descend, to throw down, to shoot, also to teach. And the name of Jerusalem is derived from Yera. One meaning of Jerusalem is foundation of peace. Yera and Yeru are the same word. And those also change with a T or a Y or the J. So this actually points to Jerusalem being not only the foundation of peace, but the foundation of the earth itself. And the connection to trees would be the tree of life, the bringer of life. Some believe that it actually sprang up where Jerusalem now is, and also the rivers of Eden are believed to have sprung up where Jerusalem now is. And the connection to the Torah would be the precepts, the statutes of the Torah, the teachings of truth, which bring wisdom. Wisdom is seen to be also connected to the earth. The book of Proverbs clearly connects wisdom to the earth. Wisdom has built her house, she has hewn out her 7 pillars, she sent out her maidens. So the earth is actually founded on wisdom, the pillars of wisdom. I said earlier that the word for 3 in English is also connected, and I'll just suggest how 3 is connected to truth and tree, wisdom, and something that is sound and founded. In law, there's usually 2 witnesses that are considered for something to be legal, and 2 witnesses would imply a third. You'd have the 2 witnesses and then the person that they're witnessing for. And in trust law, you also have to have 3 elements for it to be a legal trust. And that would be beneficiary, executor, and trustee. So here you have a foundation involving 3, and that would also imply the Trinity. So here we see the 3rd day, the number 3, being associated with trees and also wisdom, truth, and foundations. So that's the connection to 3 you can see there. Okay, in this account of 3 days of creation, there's an important thing that you can see in that time. There are 5 names that God has given. That would be day, night, heaven, earth, and seas. And these would seem to be actually spirits or beings that God has created. When something is given a name, it's actually a being. It's something that has a responsibility. It can answer to God, or it can also rebel against God. And so here we have 5 spirits that have been created, and some of them you might call terrestrial spirits, and some are heavenly spirits. And remember, night and heaven are not seen as good by God, so you have to wonder, are these evil spirits? The next thing God does is He makes the sun, moon, and stars, and He says they'll have the task of dividing the light from the darkness. He Himself had separated the light from the darkness earlier, so now it appears He's giving the task to other beings like angels or spirits. And He also says that the heavenly host will be for seasons, days, months, years. And it could be that some of the angels or spirits that are tasked with their regular appearance might deviate and create confusion and not keep their task of separating the light from the darkness, and this would throw off keeping of time. So God places the heavenly host in the firmament, and notice that it says in the firmament, not above the firmament. And so the heavenly host is placed in the expanse between the waters, the expanse that separates the waters from the waters, however big that expanse is. And some may wonder, how can we know how old creation is if there was no time kept even up to the 4th day of creation? So that's not really explained in the book of Genesis, but it could indicate a large amount of time. And also there's no explanation of how much time transpired between each day of creation. So there you could have a large amount of time between each day, and the events of those days could actually repeat over and over a certain period of time until the next event of creation or day of creation. That's the end of part 2. Part 3 will continue with the creatures from the sea, the birds, beasts of the earth. So until then,